Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Co-op Podcast. I'm your host, Richard Billy Jr., and today I'm joined by Mr. Gary A. Swaby. How's it going, Gary?
How's it going, man? Shouts to, everyone in Florida, who's been affected by the hurricane. I hope everyone's safe out there and just be careful.
Absolutely. Yeah, everybody, whether you're in Florida or in the vicinity nearby, definitely plan, prepare, be very careful. Because, this is a pretty serious hurricane. So we'll get into that. We're also joined by Mr. Max Muller. How's it going, Max?
Hey, it's going good, man. I echo exactly what you guys have to say. I hope everyone's doing good out there because that stuff's scary and ridiculous.
Absolutely. Yes, it is very scary and ridiculous. And just to continue with that topic, I also want to introduce to the show Hurricane Irma, because this hurricane also has been causing me power issues. So I hope that I don't get cut from this show because it happened prior to us trying to start initially. This is why the show is starting a little bit late. Also, this is why Mr. Lugo was not here because he lives in Florida. So we hope that he and his family stay safe during this time. And like we've already said, if you live in Florida, make sure you stay indoors. I also want to give a shout out to people out who have been affected all over. I know Damian was in the Virgin Islands. He said that they had massive damage. So I hope that his family is able to recover as well, because, yeah, it's pretty crazy. So we definitely will send our well wishes to all of you. Also, if you're wondering why Dana's not here, she's at another event related to TV and programming, upcoming shows. So maybe she'll talk about that on next week's show. But yeah, today it'll be just us three, provided that I don't lose my power again, because it's already happened. So hopefully not. All right, so there's quite a bit to get into this week. But before we do that, obviously we're going to talk about what we have been playing. So Max, how about you start us off and let us know what you've been playing?
Well, this week has been all about Destiny 2. And I was telling this to Gary a bit earlier. It's I know that we were all pretty worried about the game and what it was going to turn out to be, but it turned out so far that it is exactly the game we wanted the first one to be, and then some. I guess that always depends on your expectations, but my expectations for the first game were very high, and for this one, they were very low. So maybe that's not the best way to describe it, but so far I've been overly satisfied with the game pretty much throughout. The story is leaps and bounds better than the first one. It actually exists, and I think that it stands up to games just like Halo and other sci-fi kind of epics out there. It's definitely... The missions are kind of, they kind of drag a little bit in the middle of the game, even though the story is very interesting. The actual gameplay in the missions, like the first mission is awesome, and the first few are pretty cool, but then after that it kind of drags, similar to the story missions in the first game, where you're just kind of doing stuff. And then the last few missions, like the last act of the game, is also just wonderful. The final boss is very, very cool. One of the coolest final bosses I've seen in a bit. Overall, very, very surprised with just all of the characters in the game are great. All of them, even if you like them, dislike them. Some of them I think you're supposed to dislike, but they're all very well written and pretty hilarious. There's a lot of pretty smart, witty writing in there, which I was, again, very surprised by. In terms of everything after story, it's interesting because Destiny 2 kind of pushes you to do the entire story before you can really expand out into everything else. And from what I've been seeing, it took me around 8.5 hours to beat it. But from what I've seen, some people are going from like 8 to 12. I kind of rushed through it, though, just because I kind of wanted to get it done, even though I was enjoying it. But in terms of the other content in the game, from what I've experienced so far, it's great. Doing patrols and public events and all that sort of stuff is really cool. They've updated it so you can always see when public events are happening. Like you can even be on like Earth and go check out a public event on another planet. You can see a countdown as to when it's about to start, and you can warp there. It'll take you like 30 seconds and then you're there and you could start the public event. You could just literally farm these things endlessly. There's a lot of side quests in the game, which is also surprising. Also very well written stories. Like One of them I played, I'm not going to spoil it, but it felt like it could have been a main story mission, and it was definitely more interesting than some of these, which was cool. You know, that's not a knock on it. And I haven't tried a whole lot of them, but the ones that I've tried so far are very, very cool. Strikes are great, except for one of them was kind of bland to me, but the other 3 that I tried are awesome. Very, very cool story-driven content taking place in very cool locations. PvP has been pretty good so far. I haven't played a whole lot of it, or I've played a decent amount, but not as much as I'd like of PvP. But I've really started to get into the hang of things, and there's a lot of people that just aren't very good at Destiny 2 PvP right now, which is pretty funny. But what are you gonna do? But overall, it's a game that I am thoroughly enjoying, which again I was not expecting to enjoy this much. I expected to like it, get like 50 hours out of it, and be done. But honestly, I'm very tempted to get the expansion pack and continue playing this game for a long time. Like it's that good right now. There are a lot of reused assets and like mission types and of course enemies, which I'm still not entirely sure how to feel on, because I know some people are saying don't look at this as necessarily Destiny 2, look at this as the Destiny that the first game was supposed to be, which if you do look at that, you can forgive them and you'll be a lot happier. But I don't know, I feel like they took a lot of shortcuts in certain spots, which is, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's just, I don't know. We'll have to see. It's up to you to decide how that affects you. But Mark just said it's not out yet. No, it's not on PC, just not yet. But overall, I really enjoy it. It's definitely worth a purchase. It's a must-buy if you liked the first game in any way, shape, or form. Even if you fell off after the first few expansions like I did, this game has more than enough to drag you back in and keep you happy. You know, it just throws so much at you. It simplifies everything from the first game. It really tells you what's going on and how to do certain things. There's not a lot of confusion, even in terms of like strange coins and infusing and all that kind of BS they added later on. It's so much more simplified now. It's really nice. There's a lot of like small quips in the game kind of referencing the first, a lot of the mistakes they made, which is kind of funny, even though I think that's a bit too on the nose. But I think it's really funny for the most part. But no, overall, I really enjoy it. Really, really enjoy it.
Okay, so I have a quick question that I have to ask, and hopefully we don't put you on the spot with this question, but I'm very curious. Now, would you say that, where would you say Destiny 2 ranks on your list for Game of the Year thus far? Is it at the top of the list, at the middle of the list, or is it not even on the list?
It's definitely lower down right now. I think part of that's also just because I kind of knew what to expect, you know, because it still is Destiny. It's just good this time around. So it's nothing like super innovative or anything like that. It's just a really fun time, and it's a game that I'm definitely just going to keep playing because I have friends that play it and I'm enjoying it. But it's not like a must play experience for like any gamer, but it's definitely a must buy for people who love Destiny. It's definitely a great game, but it's nowhere near Game of the Year for me. No.
Okay, well, hey, I do have a couple of things to say on Destiny 2, but we'll get to my thoughts a little bit later. Gary, let us know what you have been playing.
Yeah, so this week I've been playing the best online FPS game that you can get right now, and that's Overwatch. So yeah, of course I've been playing Overwatch this week. I've also been playing Uncharted Lost Legacy. I haven't beat that game yet, but you know, I did get a bit further, and I'm always like, whenever I turn on an Uncharted game, I'm always impressed by like how good it looks. Like even yesterday I was playing it and my brother was here too, and like we were just like amazed at how good it looked and everything. So yeah, Naughty Dog does a great job like with the texture detail in those games, and you know, every time I turn it on, I'm impressed. And I've also been playing some Persona 5 as well, just because I want to, like, even though I've beat the game, I still want to max out all of my character relationships and stuff like that, just because it's like so satisfying and you get to learn more about each character the more you progress with them and stuff. So yeah, I've been replaying that a little bit as well, and that's pretty much it. As for Destiny 2, you know, I'm still thinking about it. I may end up getting it on PS4 soon. I'm still, I'm still thinking about it, but I definitely want to get it on the PC also when it comes out, because I have, a couple people that I want to play with, and I already kind of committed to playing with them when it comes out on the PC. So I have a hard decision to make on whether I'm going to get it on PS4 as well. And I've even been thinking about getting it on the PS4 and then trading it in when the PC version comes out. But we'll see. I'm still thinking about it. But it's good to hear that, Max is enjoying it and the story is, far superior to the first game. So I'm glad, that they improved it at least. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've been playing this week.
That's cool. It sounds good. I believe a lot of people have already told you, Gary, you just need to go ahead and get Destiny 2 on PlayStation 4. I know Mr. Fergus Mills, who I actually saw last week during PAX West, said the same thing. So I'll be very curious to see how this story ends, because it definitely will end at some point. And might I remind you that if you get it on PC, that's great. But be aware that in a couple of days after that drops, Assassin's Creed Origins also drops. So you're going to have some very tough decisions to make next month.
Yeah, it's going to be a struggle. The struggle is real.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so as for what I've been playing, I also have been playing Destiny 2. I decided to get it on PlayStation 4 because there's a lot of people that I know that have it on PlayStation 4. But I haven't really had too much time to really play it as of yet because, I just recently reviewed Knack 2. The review is on the website. I'll just say this real quick about Knack 2. A lot of times when the game comes out and you don't really play it, you think the game is garbage because you see the reception that it is getting. This is what I thought of the first Knack. Even though I never played that game, I looked at, everyone said it's garbage. A lot of people didn't take it serious. So therefore I was like, well, that's unfortunate. So after playing Knack 2, and I see that there's a lot of things that are great about the game that they have improved upon. To me, that right there is the main reason why you shouldn't always listen to what a reviewer says about a game. Obviously, if you have people that you are fans of their content, then by all means you can consider picking up a game. But the big lesson learned from this is, don't listen to what a lot of these other sites say in regards to how they think about a certain game or a product or maybe even a form of entertainment. Because while some of them are correct in what they say, other times they may not be correct. Now, as I said in my review with Knack 2, the best thing about the game is the platforming, the fact that the character changes in size, and the fact that it has the puzzle elements incorporated. Also, all of this stuff makes it awesome, in my opinion. The story is it's a little okay, not really excellent, but it's fun, and again, for the intended audience that PlayStation wanted to go after with this title, I think they nailed it for the most part. So I was surprised with the game. I did give it a 80 out of 100, so I thought it was pretty good. Can it be a little repetitive fighting all these enemies? Absolutely, but it is a fighting game, a beat 'em up to be exact. So I think you have to anticipate that this type of stuff is going to be in the game. But for what it's worth, pretty decent game. If there is one major criticism I have for PlayStation, it's that I feel they don't really put enough marketing behind some of these games that they have that are exclusives, because I didn't see nothing for Knack. They had a trailer that went up, like a 30-second trailer that could be considered a commercial that I saw on their YouTube, but I haven't seen them pushing these games. And they've done the same for other games in the past. Until Dawn, that was another game where there wasn't really any real marketing behind the game that we saw, but then when the game came out, it was a success. So I hope that they actually consider marketing some of the other titles moving forward. You don't need to market a title like God of War because everybody knows God of War, but for other games like Knack, which had a mixed perception the first time, I think it would help them to market this stuff moving forward. Or just not just that, but any title that's new and they want people to actually get invested into it. That is the only advice that I would give Sony, but the game is good. It's good for what it is. Not for everybody, but again, if you just want a game, $40, that's going to take about 10 hours to play through. with puzzles, so on and so forth, then you can't go wrong picking up this game. So that's my thoughts on that too. Let me jump back to Destiny 2 again. As I said, I didn't really play too much of it. It's been a very busy week since I got back from PAX, which I'll also talk about in a little while. But yeah, what I played of Destiny 2 so far, the game is fun. I did encounter a couple of issues with the story mode where, you know, I was on a couple of story missions, and then of course, you know, connection was lost, and actually when it was lost, it went directly back to the PlayStation home screen. So I know that Bungie is working on some patches. I would assume they're working on patches because there's a lot of issues people have been reporting. So I hope that they get that issue resolved moving forward. But for what it's worth, the game is good so far. As Max said, the story is definitely better because there actually is a story this time. Well, it actually feels like it's a story anyway. So it's definitely better, improved, based on what I have played so far. But again, I'm not really that far in the game because I've been playing a lot of other things in addition to this. But what I played so far, I'm very much interested in jumping back to finishing the story and seeing where everything goes from here on out. If there was only one criticism that I could make in the story, and I've spoken about this with Max as well as Tony Polanco off screen, that would be that I don't like how in, you know, obviously the first opening act, the very first chapter, you lose the light power. And then right after that, in the second chapter, you get it back so quick. You know, I thought that that could have been a little bit longer, but obviously they did that so that a lot of people really like the multiplayer and they want to be able to access that immediately. You can't access that right as soon as you start the game. You have to play up into a certain point in time for all that to be open. So I understand that they had to have that in there, but you know, my perception is that losing the light is such a big deal. It probably should take a little bit of time for us to get it back, but they just rushed to that immediately with the second act. So it is what it is. Again, it's not bad, but again, that's the only criticism that I would have based on what I played so far. Now, obviously, once I play more, I'll have more thoughts on it. But so far, it's good. It's definitely better. It feels better than the first game so far. So I'll have more to say about that next week because I should get a little bit further. I know Mr. Lugo will have a review at some point next week, so you guys can definitely look forward to that. But yeah, that's as far as Destiny 2. That's my thoughts. And the final game that I did get a chance to play, I did get a chance to play NBA 2K18, the Prelude, which is a demo that is available for free right now. Pretty much just allows you to start the My Career mode where you get to choose your player, you know, how they look. You know, they have a couple of options here or there. You don't really do too much in terms of the customization yet because it feels like you'll be able to do more when you actually get the final game. But yeah, you know, all I did was I created my player. You know, they had a little tournament I had to play 3 games in. And then after that, you know, you get approached by, you know, you choose what your favorite team is. You then get approached by someone who works on that staff of that team, and they give you a tryout to actually play on the team in the locker room. So, of course, I chose the Boston Celtics because, you know, I'm a Celtics fan. And making that decision, of course, I got to play in the practice facility, you know, with the Celtics. But then what happens after you play with the team, then you get a call from the agent says, "Oh, I have some big news for you." And then right at that point, that's when they cut off the the game and say, "Hey, you want to find out what happens? Well, now you need to pick up the final version of the game." So, you know, I give 2K credit for making it so that people will be interested in wanting to actually pick up the game. It does come out for those that pre-order it next Friday, which is September 15th. And of course, if you don't pre-order it, it'll be out the following Tuesday. But I give them credit. The game, so far, what I played was fun. Looks good. I'm just curious to see what else My Career mode has to offer. And one thing I didn't like is, you know, that's all you play in My Prelude. You're not playing any game, so you can't play like an exhibition game against different teams. You can't do any of that. So obviously, still a lot more to see with NBA 2K18. But based on what I played so far, I think it's pretty good so far. So looking forward to trying it out next week. And I'm pretty sure I will give updates on that as well as Destiny 2 the next time we record a show. But I know that was quite a bit to talk about. So that is pretty much what we have been playing, though. Gary, you had anything you was about to say?
Oh no, I was just gonna say that's
Oh
a
yeah,
lot of good
man.
stuff there.
Hey, yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, everything is good. I mean, I didn't have any real issues with anything I played. So, and to just to know that the storm of games is coming, it's pretty crazy. So, we'll see, we'll see. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and jump right into a couple of the main topics. Uh, let's address this topic first, and then I'll talk about my PAX West experience a little bit later. So one of the big news stories this week had to do with South Park, The Fractured But Whole, and the fact that they released a video in which pretty much, if you change the difficulty setting, is based on the color of the character. I guess you say the race or the color of the character. So in other words, if you change the character to a darker skin tone, it will make the difficulty a lot harder for people. So I know when I saw this, I thought it was fantastic. It's a great idea, but we needed to discuss this. I wanted to get you guys' opinion on, the fact that they implemented this, whether or not you think that there will be some backlash that they will receive, and just what are your overall thoughts on them taking this particular approach with the game. So, Max, how about you go first? Let me know your thoughts.
I think it's pretty spot on with the way South Park does things. I think it's a bit ballsy, especially nowadays in the political climate we are in. But from what I know, I think it doesn't make the combat or anything harder, if I'm not mistaken, correct? It just means that people treat you differently, and it's harder to do like the other things that happen in the game. It's only the combat that's unchanged, if I'm not mistaken, which is an interesting choice when it comes to game design. But I think it's pretty. I just think it's pretty spot on for South Park. Like, I'm not too surprised by this sort of thing when it comes to South Park. They kind of definitely stretch the limits sometimes. The reaction seems pretty good to it so far, though. I haven't really seen any negative reactions to it, but I could be wrong on that. But I haven't seen any of them, which is interesting.
Oh no, I've seen a couple people. Their reaction is, "Man, that's an excellent idea. I wish that I could have thought about implementing that in my game." So, yeah, it's pretty positive.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Gary. So, what are your thoughts?
I think it's genius, and definitely accurate and everything. And yeah, like Max said, this is pretty standard for the South Park team, and it's one of the things I like about the South Park creators, because they're not afraid to push people's buttons, and also use the ignorance of humanity, and make a joke of it, make light of it. That's just their style. I am concerned on what the backlash will be, because we live in a climate right now where everyone has something to say. Everyone is an SJW. There's a lot of online fake activism going on and stuff. So yeah, I'm interested to see what the reception is going to be, based on it. But I think it's cool. Like, I mean, it fits the game. It's what South Park is all about. Like, and they're doing something smart and quirky, and I think it fits. And I think it's great. I think it's like a great idea, to be honest. Let's just see if people are ready for it, and if people are going to complain about it on a large scale. But even if people do complain, what I'm happy about is that I think they're going to stand their ground. I don't think they'll change the game, because of the reception, the backlash they get from it. And that's what I like to see as well. I like people to stick to their creations and their decisions, like especially when they're not actually doing anything wrong. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
I pretty much agree with the both of you. I think it's an excellent idea. One thing that I would add is that they absolutely will be some backlash, but honestly, like you guys said, it fits the context of the show. It fits the guys and the way that they think about things creatively. So I don't have a problem with that. But there will be some backlash because even when I played the demo at E3, one scene that I'm pretty sure everybody has seen by now, you know, your character is a little kid. You know, they have this scene I play where you go into a strip club and you actually have to give a lap dance to a drunk guy as a little kid. And of course, you know, if you decide, there is an option you have where you can fart on the guy while you're giving him the lap dance, which, you know, pretty gross. But I can already see people being like, oh, offended because they're suggesting a little kid lap dancing on an adult. That's kind of creepy type of stuff. But there will be some backlash. But honestly, anyone who watches South Park, you already know this fits exactly what they do. They do this type of stuff, and it's hilarious. So I'm pretty sure that there will be some backlash, but I know these guys are not going to be bothered by any of that. I mean, this is the game they wanted to make, and I support it because, again, it's their own creative vision for what they envision that the game is supposed to be. So I don't have a problem with any of this stuff. And it's going to be very interesting. You know, obviously this is coming out in October. There's a lot of other games that are also coming out. So I'll be very curious to see, once they have the NPDs for October, which games are going to be at the top of the list, where this will fall on that list, because again, you have Shadow of War coming out, which is a game we're also going to talk about in a little while, as well as Wolfenstein and Mario, all coming out the same month. So I'm very curious to see where South Park falls on that list, if at all. But still, I applaud them for doing what they wanted to do. They didn't censor themselves. They didn't do anything, and I appreciate that. And I can't wait to pick up the game when it drops. So that's all I was going to say on that. I don't know if you guys had go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I just wanted to say as well, like one of my favorite RPGs of all time is Dragon Age Origins. And in that game, you know, depending on which race and type of character you pick, people react to you differently in certain situations, or they acknowledge you differently, kind of thing. You know, depending on, you know, whether you're an elf or a human, or whether you're a human that's, you know, of a royal bloodline, or, you know, you're some scrub or something like that. You know, like people react to you differently in the world, even though like a lot of the ending of the conversations is the same, but you know how they initially greet you changes and stuff. So I would like to see more games like that, because it's more realistic and it's what happens in, you know, society. So I wish, you know, more games actually did what Fractured Butthole is doing in that regard.
I agree. I agree 100% with that.
I agree. I just feel like people are more likely to give this a pass because it's South Park, whereas if other games did this, they would be a lot more hesitant to do so, which sucks, but that is the way that people tend to be nowadays. Because I agree. I think that when games explore racism like properly, it can actually be done really well and like teach you about like the wrongs of it, which I think is really cool. So it can definitely be done right. But in this case, I think it's very, very interesting that South Park is doing this. Yeah, like in the chat, Hibiki literally just said, imagine GTA doing this. I think people would have a very different reaction if GTA did this. Oh, actually, maybe not. I don't know. The GTA crowd can be pretty similar in ways. I think that the general public would freak out more if GTA did this, though.
Yeah, I think the general public would definitely freak out, because GTA is always like the game that's targeted on a mainstream level when people want to bash video games and stuff like that. It's one of those games. So people would probably say something about it, but I think people within the gaming community who already understand GTA probably wouldn't, you know, complain as much.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, hey, these are good points all across the board. But I think you make some very good points, Max. You know, the fact that this is South Park, you know, a lot of people will give it a pass. If it was another game now, though, they'll probably crucify that developer, the company, everything. So it's yeah. That's how it is. But either way, like I said, I'm looking forward to the game. I was already looking forward to it after playing it at E3, so I can't wait to see what other crazy stuff they have in there. So, yeah, any other thoughts on this topic before we move on to the next?
I'm good.
Yeah, I think we covered everything. So, yeah.
Okay, Gary. I'm going to give you the floor now to talk about this Shadow of War DLC controversy. Because I know you have some of the facts. The only facts I know is that, you know, it's DLC controversy having to do with one of the guys who was a part of the team who passed away. I think he lost the battle to cancer. So they decided to immortalize him in the game as a character, but then they weren't clear exactly where the proceeds of that particular DLC goes to. But that's all I know. But please elaborate more for those that might have missed the story when it happened.
Yeah, so the executive producer, you know, Michael Forgey, he unfortunately passed away, and you know they wanted to pay tribute to him in the game. So they came up with this, you know, DLC character that's an orc that you can buy, and you know, in the game, I think he assists you in certain fights and stuff like that. So they mentioned that, you know, all purchases of the DLC would be donated to, you know, the family and the fund and everything like that. But what they didn't mention is that there was certain states where that wasn't applicable, and people online read the terms and conditions, I believe, and they found out that there was certain states where the actual purchase wouldn't go to the family of the deceased person. So, you know, people made a big fuss about that, saying that, you know, Warner Brothers is trying to funnel that money, you know, back into, you know, the company and everything, and that they're using the death of someone to make profit, basically. And yeah, there was a few back and forth. I think Warner Brothers issued a very general response saying that they don't profit from any of the sales or something, but they were being very vague about it, basically, and they still didn't they didn't say where the actual money goes in those states. You know, they wasn't transparent about that. So yeah, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding that, and you know, where that money actually goes, you know, from people who buy the DLC in those states. So yeah, what do you guys think of that? Because it's a very sensitive issue.
I think that this was something that was easily avoidable by WB, because I guess you could say they were trying to do something good here, but they kind of screwed that up. From what I can tell, they seem to have not had a lot of good PR regarding this game in general, even though the game is very awesome. And the fact that they still haven't clarified what's happening with that money does definitely raise some questions. I was just reading some of the comments on the Kotaku article that you shared, actually, and someone was saying, like, is this really an issue? I understand people wanting to make sure that a donation is a donation, but I think people are making a mountain out of a molehill here. And while I think that it's a bit more serious than that, I think that it's definitely something that needs to be talked about. I think the real issue here is what the person said in response to that, was that there needs to be a lot of clarity when it comes to charity donations and stuff like that, because there's always some sort of confusion or like a scandal going on with charities, it seems. And this is just another case where it's like people are buying this DLC probably to donate to the family more than them because they want the DLC, you know, if they even want it at all. And the fact that Warner Bros. Isn't being entirely clear with this is just really sketchy and makes you think that they are just up to something. And you know how corporate America can be, like, like that stuff's usually leaning more towards the bad side than the good side. You know, it's a lot of corrupt kind of stuff, which sucks. And honestly, I'd say that people who really want to donate to the family should just go donate to the family directly instead of buying some of the DLC, because some of that even still goes to Warner Bros. You know, Warner Bros. Isn't pushing all of it towards that. They're only pushing some of the profits towards that. And yeah, I really wonder what it is with the states. I don't know if it's like a law thing or something like that, but I feel like if it really was something like that, they could probably get around it. I wonder if it's just they just no idea why they wouldn't be doing it in those specific states. That's really, really weird.
Yeah, that was going to be a question I had, like, are the donation laws different in those states or something like that? But if that was the case, they could simply just be transparent about it and people would understand. But the fact that they didn't even mention it at all, that's what really makes them seem extra suspect.
Exactly. And since they followed up too, saying that, oh no, we're not going to take the money, but that's it. Like, they didn't, like, what? Where's it going then? It's just not going to go anywhere? Like, you're not going to give it all to Steam. I know that. Like, what?
It's like they felt pressured into making a statement, but like they really didn't say anything at all.
Exactly. Exactly. And they did it on Twitter too. They didn't even do it officially from what I could tell. Which I guess Twitter is now official. Maybe I'm wrong in that. Twitter is now seen as official when accounts like that do that. Because I guess Trump does a lot of his stuff on Twitter too. So I guess that's the world we live in.
Uh-oh, be careful. Don't say that name. Be careful with that name.
Fair.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. But
no, I know.
so here's the thing. I feel in a very awkward position because I did see Shadow of War at PAX West. I actually recorded some gameplay footage and I have been rendering out the video. Now, obviously, depending on if I still have power for the next 24 to 48 hours, you know, it will be on the site. It will be on the YouTube. If not, it will come later in the week. But the thing about it is, yeah, the game is fantastic. So to now with all this other stuff going on with the PR, I think it's very unfortunate. But, you know, I did see that Mark mentioned in the chat that the PR meltdown started when they delayed the game out of the August time that it was supposed to be out. I do agree with that because, you know, I was looking forward to playing that game in August. Now, obviously the delay helped the game out more based on what I played and what I saw while I was at PAX West. The game, yeah, it looked like they needed the extra time to fine tune a lot of other things. So that's fine. But this issue with the executive producer, I feel, you know, I think that the idea to immortalize the guy as a character, that's a great idea. But I feel like if you're going to do that, then all of the money needs to go to the family because Warner Brothers is already making a ton of money. They have multiple versions of this game that people can buy if they want the regular, the silver, or the gold edition. And some of these editions are up to $100. Plus, you have a collector's edition. I'm pretty sure people will still buy that stuff. But my thought is, you know, as far as the DLC is concerned, if you're going to make this DLC, and it's pretty much a DLC where the character will save you when you need it at the last minute, I think if you're going to do this, then yeah, all of the proceeds, and I mean all of the proceeds should go to his family because they're making money already from everything else. So I don't really understand. You know, I understand, you know, they released a message. They said, well, they're not going to take all the money, and they didn't clarify that any further, which is, you know, they definitely should be more clear about what their intentions are. But I just think in the case of Warner Brothers, you know, they make so much money from so many other things. They have a lot of movies that came out. We were just talking about earlier that you know, It came out. Now I know that this is not the same division, obviously, because that's entertainment film. This is video games. But Warner Brothers as a company makes a ton of money, so I don't understand why they need to profit off the DLC. If it is for the executive producer, I would think that all of that money should go to the producer. But that's just my opinion, because others may say no, it needs to go to the developers also. And in that case, you know, you could be right about both of those topics. But I just think it's unfortunate for them to have this issue because the delay was already a problem for a lot of people. So to now know that there's all this other stuff, you know, about the multiple editions and the fact that it's so expensive for all this other stuff, this is too much. And hopefully, I hope that, you know, they are able to clarify this later and let people know, well, this is actually all going to him. I know that there was a Kickstarter, I believe, that was also started for the family. And yeah, people should donate. I agree with what Max said. People should donate to that also if they want to do that. But I just think Warner Brothers, when they made this decision, they should have been about the fact that, well, this guy, he put all his time into helping making this game a success today. So we should do something for him, but we shouldn't need to profit off of that because the game itself is great. I think if they would have taken the approach of just having all the money go towards the family, that may have made even more people want to buy the game itself. For those that maybe have not been sold on it. But again, this is just my opinion, you know. But what do you guys think? Because I think, Gary, you was about to say something.
Yeah, what I would have done, the way I would have approached this if I was like Warner Brothers is because, you know, this guy has put in a lot of work for the company and he's made them money. So what I would have done is this, like, I would have said to, you know, people, we're releasing this DLC character, but it's, you know, completely free. So anyone who buys the game can download this character who's a tribute to, you know, the guy who died. And what they really should do is behind the scenes, like they should, well, they could say it to the public too, but what they should do is, you know, they should say that for 1 month, we're going to give away like 15% of all sales of the game to the family. So, you know, however much they make, you know, in that month or, you know, whatever the period may be, we're going to, you know, donate that money to them because I think that would be a better way to handle it, I think.
That is a very, very good point. I think Warner Brothers, they need to reach out to you for advice on this stuff in the future. But in all seriousness, yeah, that would have been a great idea because again, the one aspect that I think, you know, we just said it and you said it, and that really made me think even further. This is a guy that dedicated a lot of his time, most of the time dedicating it to working on this game instead of spending time with his family. So if anyone needs to be getting something from this, it should be the family, because this is time that was taken away where he could have been spending with them working on this game. So I like I said, I hope that they clarify this a little bit later to really get into this stuff because it is important to state that, and also the perception among the audience, the fans, they need to know this stuff also. But yeah, as Max has said, well, we've all said the game is fantastic. So it's unfortunate to see this type of stuff going down, but this should be stuff that Warner Brothers learns from, because they had a great year so far this year. You know, Injustice 2, that has to be one of the best fighting games this year. So again, this goes back to my whole theory of I don't understand why, you know, they need to profit off of that DLC for this particular character. I mean, they made a lot of money in a lot of different ways. So hopefully they do clarify it and they do decide to give most of that money, if not all of it, to the family. I don't know how they're going to approach it now, but I'm pretty sure they're trying to think about different ways to do that based off of what has happened in the recent news. But we'll see what happens. Max, did you have anything else that you wanted to add to the topic, or are you good?
I think I'm good. I agree, though, that Gary's suggestion would have been great because I think that people would have been there. Definitely would have been those people who would have just bought the game, even if they were on the fence about it. They would have bought the game just to donate to that as well. You know what I mean? Even if they weren't going to play it for a long time or something like that. That'd be a really good idea just in general. And everyone would have won. Like Warner Bros., they would have gotten their boosted sales that they strive for. But the thing is, a lot of that money would have went towards the family, which would have been really great. So everyone would have won there, and it would have been a lot better handled in this sort of situation. And they could have really used the good PR from what I've seen. So, oh well.
Hey, he said, "Oh well." Uh-oh.
Nothing we can do now. It sucks.
Well, hey, listen, it is unfortunate, but we'll see what comes from this. But I will say, I could definitely say again, the game is fantastic.
Yeah.
A character like the character that they made, I think that is essential, because when you see the video that I made, I did a pretty good job, but eventually, it gets to be very crazy going up against all these orcs. So you definitely want some characters to save you. That is a feature that is in the game. You are able to save some orcs. They'll return the favor later and save you. You'll see that in the video also, because I did get saved. But yeah, it's unfortunate that all of the confusion with how they handled that particular practice. But hopefully they learn from this. And if they do provide more clarity later and they announce to say, well, yeah, all of the money is going to that, then that'll be awesome. But we'll see what happens. So any other thoughts before we move on to the next topic?
I'm good.
No, that's it.
He said, no, that's it. That's it. Okay, so I probably should talk about this very quickly, since I know people wanted to know. Obviously, I wasn't on the show last week because I went to Seattle for PAX West 2017. This was the first PAX that I've been to in Seattle. So it was a very interesting experience. I wanted to do a show earlier in the week to just talk about, nothing but PAX West, but I was unable to because I came back on Labor Day and I had to go to work the next day after that. So my schedule's been a little crazy, up and down. But I do want to definitely talk about PAX, the overall experience. I did want to ask Gary and Max, though, are there any particular questions that you have, and as well as those that may be watching live? Do you have any specific questions you wanted to ask me about PAX West before I talk into a few things that I played, so on and so forth?
I mean, I've asked you this anyway, but like, where would you rank it, you know, in terms of other events you've been to? So obviously like PAX East and E3 and, you know, and the indie event you went to and stuff like that. Like, where does PAX West rank? And is it like, how does it compare to PAX East as well?
Okay, so that's a good question. So PAX East, you know, that happens earlier in the year. One thing I will say right off the bat, you know, I believe that the whole culture behind PAX is that in the beginning, there was some games that got revealed at PAX or prior to PAX, and there was a lot of excitement because they will be very surprised when something gets announced. I know when we went to PAX East in the past, that was the first opportunity to play The Last of Us. I believe, yeah, it was me, JJ, and a few others got a chance to play that. Yeah, you know, Anthony Frazier when he was with the site at that time also. So there are some surprises that happen, and I do also recall another Rockstar game that I did play at PAX for the first time. It was Max Payne 3. You know, the whole thing with PAX is that sometimes there's a lot of stuff that gets revealed prior to the show, and then you can play it. That seems to be going away to some extent. When I went to PAX South, one thing I did notice is that Gamescom, you know, Gamescom happened the week prior, and a lot of the stuff that I saw there was some stuff that was from Gamescom, where if there was like a new build that you can play of a particular game, it was there. It was the Gamescom demo version as opposed to the E3 demo version. But then there was other stuff where it pretty much was stuff that was also from E3 also. Now, we went to E3 back in June, so it's just like a lot of that stuff. If you didn't go to E3, it's like you could have went to PAX and you could have gotten all the stuff that you didn't get at E3 pretty much at PAX. So to rank, you know, if I was to rank everything as it is now, I would say PAX was okay. It didn't really feel like it was better than E3 because, again, E3, there's a lot more that you see at E3. Now, there were some games we saw we didn't get to play at E3. I will say, in terms of playing games, I played a hell of a lot more games at PAX West. I had a lot of appointments, which I also had at E3, but there was more games I actually was able to play. I know one game in particular that everybody was talking about that got announced at Gamescom, Biomutant. I did get a chance to play that at PAX West, and that game was awesome. Didn't get to play it at E3 because obviously it wasn't announced at that time. So it is some benefits to going to PAX West, but I would say if you go to E3 or if you go to Gamescom, you don't really need to go to PAX. You know, PAX is only accessible to that for those types of things where it makes sense to go to if you're not going to any other conferences. So it's a great event for fans. But if I was to rank it on the list based of every show that I've been to this year, I would say it's maybe middle of the road. E3 is still at the top of the list, even though the public was there, even though, there was a lot of issues with the way that they handled the show this year. The fact that I was able to spend time with you guys as well as other people that we are friends with in the industry, I think that made it a better event because of the community aspect of it. And of course, the conferences, being able to watch the Sony conference live, the Xbox conference, all of that stuff trumps anything that I can do at PAX. But with that said, the one great thing about PAX West is that a lot of the appointments I had, they were off the floor. So I wasn't in a lot of those crowds. A lot of the people had stuff at hotels. And what you do learn in that experience is that there's a lot of games that they definitely should be played in a much different environment as opposed to on the floor where there's so much noise and so much crazy stuff going on. So like Shadow of War, for example, I did take a picture of that. I actually went to a workspace and played that, like a place that was off-site away from the convention center. Of course, they had food there, they had drinks there, so on and so forth. And then I just got to spend a good 2 hours actually playing the game, talking to one of the developers on the game. So it's a much more chill, relaxed environment as opposed to, having an appointment on the actual floor. Because at E3, we had a couple of appointments that were on the floor, and it's just so chaotic. So it's just different aspects to it. But again, to get back to what you asked initially, yeah, PAX West is still a good show. I would say it was maybe a little bit better than East. Now, I didn't go to PAX East this year, so I don't know how good that was in terms of that. But I would say PAX West definitely one of the better shows that I've been to this year. But still, I think E3 trumps that. And a lot of people told me at PAX West, you need to go to Gamescom. So I guess I need to make a plan to go to Gamescom in the future because everyone has been telling me Gamescom is the best show. Obviously, public is there also, but they also have days specific for the media. So that's something I definitely need to look into in the future. Perhaps maybe next year. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But it still was a good show for what it was. So not necessarily a bad thing. Were there any other questions? Well, hopefully I answered that question.
Oh, yeah, you answered that.
Yeah, you did. What's your favorite game that you played? Or even didn't get to play, but like saw?
Man, that's a good question. That's a tough question. See, here's the thing. Initially, I had a discussion with you guys to tell you Biomutant is at the top of the list. But after spending some time with a few of the other games, okay, I'll narrow it down to it's hard for me to choose one as the best game, but if I have to absolutely positively choose one as the best game, it really has to be Shadow of War. It's something about that game just going into it. I played it at E3, and I will say right now, first and foremost, let me clarify. I do know how to play video games. I know a lot of journalists out there don't know how to play video games to some extent. That's what the controversy is now. But that game is just so challenging when you actually do the Forge Siege events. I know when they first revealed that footage, you look at that, you're like, oh, well, this looks easy. Like, I'll just run through a whole bunch of orcs, do this, that, or other. No, the game is very challenging when you get to that stuff. And you have to constantly level up the characters, stuff like that. But just the spectacle of the war, they really captured that to a whole nother level in this particular game. It was great in the last game. But this game, it feels like it's, you really, really got to be a badass to survive in that game. And as you guys will see in the footage, I did good up until a certain point. But as I got deeper into it, and the enemies started to become, because, when you do a Forge attack siege, it's not like it's just like something where you can just do it real quick. A lot of things you have to worry about. So it was very challenging. But I say that was the best game because it felt like the experience. I enjoyed the last Shadow of War game, well, Middle Earth game. So this feels like it's a lot more of that, but also there's other things that they've added to improve it. There's like stuff where you get orcs on your team, you can also heal them because once an orc takes a amount of damage, they start bleeding out. You can heal them, and then they will continue to work with you. Like I said earlier, they also save you when you are about to really get killed. There may be some that will save you, and then you can promote them to become your bodyguard, stuff like that. But then they also have this thing with the flying dragons where you can now control a dragon, jump onto the dragon, and then just fly into a territory and just burn all the enemies right below you. That stuff was awesome. And really, it feels like, even though I spent two hours with the demo, really only scratching the surface of the game. So I think that definitely will be the game I enjoyed the most, just from the gameplay perspective. I don't really know too much about what the story will entail with the sequel, because it wasn't really like a sequel. It was just like I got a chance to do like the Forge battle. But the game is fantastic. That's why I feel bad about the controversy we've already discussed. But we'll see where it goes with that. In terms of some other games I enjoyed, like I said, Biomutant was great. Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, I'm a huge Wolfenstein fan. The demo I played was essentially the same demo that there was gameplay footage of before, where you start out in the wheelchair and you're trying to escape the facility. So that was relatively short, but it was still great, satisfying. Oh yeah, Gary will like this. I also got to play the Dissidia Final Fantasy game. And, I will just say this now. I've always criticized Final Fantasy because I've never had a chance to really try out the games. I still need to try out 15. I still need to try out all the other games. But I will say the Final Fantasy Dissidia fighting game was a lot of fun. It was a ton of fun. That's a game that I definitely am interested in picking up now, only because even though I've never played any of the Final Fantasy games, when you see these characters that you've seen multiple times, because I know Gary always talks about Lightning, all these other characters, when you see them and you see them in this context, you're like, hey, okay, so now I'm really trying to find out, why is it that people love Final Fantasy? Why is it that Gary loves Lightning? And I got a taste of that with that demo, and it's very satisfying. So very curious to see more of the game. I know JJ mentioned on the last show he was in the beta, experienced some lag. I didn't experience any lag when I played, and I was playing the game at one of the hotels they had in the nearby area. But it's a good game, good game. And as for any other games that might have stood out to me, well, there's a ton of games. I mean, I'm still writing previews for everything, but in terms of the games I enjoyed the most, that is the gist of what I enjoyed the most thus far. But there's plenty of other games that were also great. So definitely look forward to a lot of those thoughts, previews throughout the week, starting tomorrow, because I do have some stuff I'm working on. But again, it all depends if I will still have power, which I think I should be okay. We'll see. We'll see. But with any other questions about PAX West that you guys had?
No, it sounds excellent. Like, seems like you got to play a lot of games, which is good, because the thing people don't always understand when you go to events, like, you don't always get to play like every single game that you want to play, because you have to deal with queues, and of course we have our own schedules and everything like that. So it can be hard to actually fit in games that you want to play. But yeah, it sounds like you got to play quite a few different things, which is good.
Yeah, pretty much. Let me just take a few quick minutes. I'll run down everything that I did play for those that may be curious. Now, the first appointment I had when I went in there Friday, I did get to see Ubisoft. I had an appointment at a hotel, once again, away from the convention center. Got a chance to play some more Assassin's Creed Origins. And the game looks fantastic. I'm going to just say this right now. There's been a quote out there that the Xbox One X version is the most beautiful version of the game. I would have to agree with that quote from what I've seen so far, because the game looks fantastic. Now, I haven't seen it on PS4, I haven't seen it on the Pro, and I haven't seen it on PC. I still think the PC version will look the best, but that Xbox One X version, it looked fantastic. And of course, I was playing it on a 4K monitor, so it looked even a little bit even better. But yeah, it was the Gamescom demo. So it's a little different from the demo that you and I played, Gary, at E3. But it had to deal with more of the investigation. Like, you're able to investigate different places and figure out what happened. So I did see that, a lot of people look at what other developers are doing, how they handle the different types of things. Because I know in Batman, they have that investigation thing also. This is just done a little bit differently, but it's the same concept where you're piecing together what happened and then you have different conversations. So I did a little bit of that. I did some combat. So, but the game was fun. That was great. I also got to play more Far Cry 5. It was essentially the same demo I played at E3, but now I got a chance to actually try out fishing in the game for the first time. And that was pretty funny because it's actually challenging to do that in the game. But I did get a chance to try that out. And I also got to play The Crew 2. The Crew 2 was also fun. The fact that you can just switch in between different things that you're using, whether you want to use a truck, now you want to fly a plane, now you want to fly a boat or ride a boat. That was awesome, the way that they incorporate that system in there. It's very seamless and easy. So that was a good experience. There are videos that I recorded for these that you will see at some point on the YouTube, so you will get some coverage on that also soon. Like I said, it's just a lot of stuff that we're working on. But I did get to play that. Another game I got to play was Gravel, a game that was created by Milestone. These guys have worked on a couple other racing games. That was pretty cool. Square Enix game, like an off-road racing game, pretty much arcade style, not really like those simulation games like Forza and stuff like that. That was pretty cool. So that was a good game. I did get to see Planet of the Apes, and I did get a chance to actually play that. Now, I can't say anything about that yet. I'm just letting you know that I am able to say that I will have coverage on that game September 19th. That's when the embargo lifts, so look forward to that. But I just will say right now, anyone that has been looking forward to a Planet of the Apes game, I think you will very much enjoy this game because of the way that the developers actually approach the game. It's a very good concept. And that game is coming out this year. It will be out, I believe, in November or December. The release date is not known yet, but I was told it is coming out this year. So definitely look forward to more on that soon. Aside from that, I mentioned Final Fantasy. I mentioned Shadow of War. I did get a chance to interview Suda51 about the upcoming No More Heroes game. That interview is on the site, so if you haven't had a chance to check it out, definitely check it out. But that was an awesome interview. Just having a chance to talk with him again at a hotel. This wasn't on the floor. You know, that's the hotel stuff. I'm telling you, that's the way to go with these appointments. Aside from that, I did mention Biomutant. I did mention, I think I pretty much mentioned almost everything. I played a couple of indie games that you guys will hear some more information about soon. So,
oh, that's good because Mark asked about that.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, okay, good question. I played this game called We the Revolution. It's made by a Polish studio. It's an indie game. And pretty much you play as a judge who basically has to determine whether or not, you know, you want to arrest certain people or you let them go free. And basically the actions that you dictate pretty much do in the actual courtroom also impacts your personal life at home with your family. So that game, the concept is fantastic. The way that they actually put it together is still early in development because there hasn't really been too much about it. There was a teaser trailer that went out a couple of weeks ago, but the concept behind the game is fantastic. It's a game that's going to be coming to everything sometime in 2018. It's not nowhere near release, but what I saw of that, it has a unique art style. You'll hear something about that also in the future because I am working with them to do other coverage also. And what else am I missing? Oh yeah, I have to say this. I obviously got to play Mario Odyssey. Have a preview on the site right now. As I said in that preview, I didn't spend a lot of time with the game, but what I can tell you right now is if you have a Nintendo Switch, there should be no doubt in your mind this is a game that you need to buy because I feel like even if you don't have a Switch, this is a reason to get it. The game is fantastic. You know, like I said, I only played a little bit of it, but the controls, everything that I played of that game, it made me feel how when I was a kid and I was playing Nintendo games. And when I got to play a Mario game for the first time, and I thought, well, this is awesome. This is exactly the same feeling I had when I played this game. So I can't recommend it enough. And no, Nintendo is not paying me to say any of this stuff. You know, we work with Nintendo in the past. We do review stuff from time to time, but Nintendo is a very hard company to always get a lot of opportunities to do stuff with. So getting an opportunity to actually look at this game and write about it was awesome. So, but I definitely say it's a game that if you have a Switch, this is a day one purchase. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. You know the type of quality that Nintendo puts out whenever they do Mario games in general, so you should already know what to expect. But definitely wanted to mention that because that definitely was another game I would put in my top 5 that I enjoyed the most at the show. But worth checking out. And what else? I think that's pretty much it. I played a lot of other games, stuff that I'm still working on and writing stuff for. So some stuff I feel like I definitely want to talk about a little bit more, but it's a lot of games to try and cover. The stuff I mentioned was the things that I enjoyed the most. Not to say I didn't enjoy the other stuff. The other stuff was good too, but just the whole idea of being in Seattle for the first time was awesome. Definitely an event that I plan to go to in the future again. But it's an awesome show pretty much overall. There was a couple of events that I did get to go to offsite also because they did have a Life is Strange party that I went to. That was pretty interesting. It was a launch party for the game that they just released. That was cool. But overall, it's a nice little chill show. If you ever get a chance to go to PAX West, I would say definitely check it out. Let me know what you think after you've had a chance to check it out. But overall, a lot of good games to check out. One thing I did want to say real quick, and then we can wrap up unless you guys have any other questions. Like I said before, there wasn't really any major reveals at the show this year. I know in the past, PAX shows have had major reveals. For the Sony and Microsoft, because I actually went to their booths at this event. Sony, they had pretty much what you would expect, Uncharted, and then of course they had Gran Turismo, and they pretty much had a lot of the stuff that we already saw at E3. The Detroit demo was there that we saw at E3, just stuff like that. Microsoft, pretty much the same too. They had a major emphasis on, of course, Forza was there, Shadow of War was playable there also, so on and so forth. The one thing I will say though is a lot of people, a ton of people, which were the line for Sea of Thieves was absolutely insane. Now, I've said before on this show that I'm not really sold on that game yet. I haven't had a chance to play it. I didn't play it at PAX because I had appointments. I wasn't going to wait in line when I know I had an appointment to go to for something else. Now, maybe I will have some thoughts on the game in the future after I've had a chance to play it. But a lot of people are very high on that game. So I hope it does well for Rare. I hope it does well for Xbox One X. I'm not particularly sold on it, but that doesn't mean that a lot of people aren't sold on it. So I do give Microsoft credit that they do have something coming that people are looking forward to. Cuphead was there also, but not really that many people were playing that. The majority were all playing Sea of Thieves, though. So I guess we'll see what happens with that. But that pretty much concludes everything that I was going to say as far as what I played at PAX West. I don't know if there was any other questions about the PAX West experience, so on and so forth. Feel free to let me know.
Oh no, I just want to say thanks for the in-depth, review of PAX West. And people don't understand the work that goes into attending these events. It's not all like pleasure. A lot of work and dedication goes into covering these shows. So I just want to give my respect to you for covering the show. And you was alone as well. You was like the only person from Koalition. So.
Well, hey, thank you for that. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, I did. Now that you mentioned that, I did want to say, yeah, that's a lot of people. Just so they clarify and know, we go to these events. Some people go to an event and they see a game and that's it, but they don't really do any coverage afterwards. Maybe they sometimes get swamped. So when I went to it this time for this event, it's like, the developers, when they invite somebody to an event, they are taking their time to say, well, they want this person to come, but they're still expecting you to do something in return, whether you actually write about the game or talk about the game as I'm doing on podcasts. And believe me, I still have a lot that I'm writing. But yeah, I mean, people need to understand that when we see this stuff, there is an expectation that we are going to cover it afterwards. It's not where you just go to an event and then that's it. You know, no, that's part of the whole thing where you getting the invite in the first place. So I'm glad that I was able to go. Obviously, being the only one that did go to the show, it's a ton of content. I'll be very busy with on some stuff, but it definitely was worth it because, you know, we like to give you guys updates on the games that are coming out, the games we think are going to be great. And, you know, we appreciate the support. So, like I said, if there's any game that you do hear about moving forward that you want us to check out and we happen to be going to an event, definitely let us know and we will make sure we do our part to get that information. I do know the next event that we are trying to go to is PSX. So far, I believe me, Tony, Tatiana, and JJ, we're all going to that event. So if you do think of something you want us to try and cover, now I can't tell you for sure we may be successful because some stuff may not be at the show. Like God of War, I expect that to be at PSX because the game is coming out before E3 next year. So it has to have some type of presence at the show. But anything outside of that, let us know. Whether you can leave a comment, whether it's on the actual post on the website or on YouTube, just let us know and we'll do our best to cover the game as best as we can possible. But we do appreciate the continued support, and as long as we have the support, we will continue to do a good job making sure that we cover stuff for all of you. But yeah. Definitely check out PAX West in the future if you're interested. It still is a fun trip, good time. So that's all I was going to say. But Max, any final thoughts? Any final questions about PAX West, or are you good to move on to our next topic?
So you said you got to try out the X a little bit, right? With Assassin's Creed?
Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts? Did you get to try it enough to have any like concrete thoughts on the X or anything like that, aside from it looking really pretty in Assassin's Creed?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. In terms of the X itself, I mean, it felt pretty much like the Xbox is now. You know, of course, the controller. There's the controllers are designed a little bit differently. I believe they had a bit of a smaller controller. That was very comfortable. But the system itself, I didn't notice any performance hiccups when I was playing the game. The main thing is it looked really good, but I don't really know if I believe that the TV also plays a part in that experience. I know Microsoft, they will not say that the TV is important also, but I believe the TV is important. But the game looked fantastic. It run very quickly. It wasn't loud. One thing I did notice, and I have to give Microsoft credit on that. Systems haven't been loud. I know the original Xbox One, not really too loud either, but it has its moments where it gets ridiculously loud. With what I saw and played of the X, it wasn't loud at all. It was definitely smaller, because everyone was talking about the size. I never saw the size when we were at E3 earlier this year, but I saw it now and I'm like, yeah, that is impressive that they fit all that into that small console. Overall, I thought the system was great. If I could say one thing, I know that there was a dashboard update recently that they released. I don't know if you have got a chance to get that update yet, but I really like the updated dashboard. It's a lot simpler. The design is a little bit more cleaner. And that made me think instantly when I saw that. I was like, this could be convincing to some people who were going to get an X because it just feels like it's a lot more different, a lot more streamlined. I don't know, but I don't think that dashboard would be enough to tell someone, well, now you need to get an X. I mean, I don't know about that because it comes down to the games. But the system overall is great. I don't have any complaints about it yet. But again, I probably need to spend more time with it because I've only spent about maybe 45 minutes with it. Obviously, a couple days, then I would have more thought. So in the future, I'll definitely have more to say on the X because I may still get it, specifically so I can see what the difference is, and to see how games are looking, so on and so forth. But what I played so far, I don't have any complaints. It's great. The only complaint is where the game's at, and I need to know about more games coming to it. You know, I believe we're going to talk about Battlegrounds here shortly, but Battlegrounds is a good game, you know. But I need more options besides that, and Super Lucky's Tale, which is a game that I'm sure you will be pre-ordering day one, Max. Correct?
Nah. Actually, it looks okay, but no, I'm probably not going to be playing it.
Well, we'll see. But no, the X is good. What I played so far of it is good. I definitely need more time with it to put it through its paces and see how it performs. But Assassin's Creed, I totally see why Microsoft is taking the approach of marketing Assassin's Creed and Shadow of War, because both of these are major titles coming out this year. And the Assassin's Creed really looks good on the X. Now, I haven't seen how it looks on the other consoles yet or PC. That's to be determined. But so far, what I've seen with it being on the X, it looks fantastic. So I applaud the decision to market that game. But at the same time, Microsoft, we still need to see more exclusives. No, not the third-party stuff. You know, third-party stuff is good too. But I need to see more exclusives in general. But good system so far. So any other questions about PAX West before we move on to the next topic?
I think I'm good.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm good.
Awesome. So for those that thought that conversation went on a little bit too long, hey, telling you, man, I was there for about three and a half days, so I wanted to make sure I at least spoke a lot more about the overall experience. So yeah, as I said, definitely look forward to some previews because there's a lot of stuff I'm still writing. So look for that this week. So the next topic we're going to jump into, this is about PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. And I believe that there was a story that came out that the game has now hit 10 million in sales on PC and 1 million active users on Steam. Is that correct, Gary?
Yeah, well, over 1 million, but that's a big deal because like usually when you get when an online game comes out, obviously like the first week there's going to be a lot of people playing, but then there's always some drop off after that. And this game has been out for a while now, and it's still able to maintain, you know, a high level of active users. So that's, you know, a big deal still.
Sounds like Overwatch.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that too. Exactly.
So your question is, do we think it will have the same effect on the Xbox platform? I would like to answer that question first. I would say yes. And the reason I would say yes is because what else are people going to play on the Xbox One X this holiday season? Assassin's Creed. Oh no! It's not a criticism. It's just this is keeping it real for people. Assassin's Creed Origins is a single player game. The same goes for Shadow of War, unless there's some multiplayer stuff that I don't know about that may be getting announced. So multiplayer is going to be big on Xbox One X. I guess for those that well, even if people just get on the regular Xbox, I mean, multiplayer is going to be huge. Now you ask the question, does it have a chance to have the same reaction? It does. But again, it all depends if it actually is going to come out this holiday season, because they said late fall 2017. They never said a release date when this is coming out. So it may come out past the launch of the X. And I think Microsoft is going to try to get it to time with the launch because, I mean, I think that would be a smart move on their behalf, even though it's coming out to Xbox One also. But I think it has a chance to still have a huge audience. The big question is going to be, though, when it actually comes out. You know, we know Call of Duty is going to be out, and even though Call of Duty is a game that is on PlayStation as well, that game, a lot of people are going to pick it up on Xbox. So I guess it depends when it comes out. The timing is everything. If it comes out on November 7th, that'll be great for Microsoft. If it comes out a little bit later, I mean, it'll still be good. But I think if I was them, I would try to get that out as soon as possible to coincide with that launch, so then you can take advantage of more people who may want to get the system because of this game, because they'll be like, well, the game is coming out on Xbox One, but it doesn't have any enhancements with the Xbox One X. Yeah, it possibly does. So yeah, I think I'll get an Xbox One X for that. That's what I would think. But I think it's possible because I really can't think of any other game Microsoft is going to release that's going to be like a major top seller this holiday season. Super Lucky's Tale? I don't know, man. I don't know. Now, listen, somebody out there is going to want to play that. You know, Max downplayed it and said, no, I'm not going to pre-order that. Well, he may change his mind in a couple months. So, you know, you never know. But I think it has a chance to do well. It all depends how Microsoft, what they are going to bring to the table. If they decide to implement other things into the game, like if they had anything where there's a loot that you can get that is related to Halo or any of the other franchises, and they have little stuff in there like that, little bonuses in there like that, then yeah, absolutely, positively, yes. But we'll see what happens. But what do you guys think?
Oh yeah, I think that it'll make a huge impact. Like you said, honestly, because there isn't going to be a whole lot to play on there, but also because it's just has that mass appeal. It's just like Gary was saying, it's one of those games that even though it's been out for a while, people just keep jumping onto it. Rocket League was similar in that once it released on Xbox after a PS4 and PC, a whole bunch of people jumped on. Even like people that already owned it on PC, myself included. I think also because you might have a lot more friends on console. You may just want that more casual experience with the controller. Even though you can use a controller on PC, you're going to get your ass handed to you by other mouse and keyboard players when you're on PC. So this would even that playing ground by having everyone on a controller, so you'd actually be able to use that if that's your preferred way of playing. You know, there's going to be a large player base on there without question, and I'm sure there are people that are going to buy the X with that as their main intention, just to play Battlegrounds, at least for the time being. I'm sure they'll get other things alongside of it, but that game it's like a third-party system seller, honestly, in a way, and it's still amazing to me that Microsoft nailed that. Like, that is their ace in the hole right there, because we know they don't really, especially with losing Crackdown and Scalebound, like, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds is like their big thing that they have, and that's a very good big thing. Like, I cannot criticize them for that at all. It's very, very awesome of them to have nailed that.
I agree. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, Max made some excellent points there. Definitely about the controller thing, because I'm sure there's people who like to play Battlegrounds with a controller, but they'll get massacred by the people who play with keyboard and mouse. So now you're on an even playing field if you play it on the Xbox, because everyone has to play with a controller. So that's a good point. And also the hugely reported success of the game already on the PC is probably going to be enough to spark some intrigue by Xbox owners. So I'm sure a lot of people will pick it up based on the hearsay and the level of popularity that it has going for it. So it was definitely a good pickup from Microsoft. They did a great job of securing this game. And of course there was I'm not sure if this was confirmed, but there was the rumor going around that this might actually be like, console exclusive, for a long time, if not indefinitely. So that's a good pickup, I think, for Microsoft. Now, here's where the questions come into play. PC and console is very different. The type of the gamers on PC and Xbox are very different. PC gamers, I think you'll get more PC gamers who are willing to stick with a game in the long term than on console, because on console, gamers are, they're spoiled with choices. Like, there's so many games coming out back to back to back. And, I think there's a lot of console gamers who just jump from game to game, especially based on what their friends are playing as well. That has a lot of influence, I think. So, yeah, there's a lot of big third-party games coming out for the Xbox this year. So whether people will stick with Battlegrounds in the long term is the real question. I would like for the game to be just as successful on the Xbox as it is on PC, because I think Microsoft needs something like that. But I don't know. It's a tricky one. I kind of think there's going to be some like a higher level of drop off at some point, and it probably won't maintain the same level of numbers as the PC does, I think.
That's
But we'll
actually a
see.
great point, especially because the games on PUBG can be very long. Like I think one reason Rocket League works so well is because the games are 5 minutes. I could play a game like in between eating breakfast and heading to class. Like I would be able to do that. Whereas PUBG, you need to set aside time to do that. And the console market is different in that regard. Like I guess there are games like MMOs and like MOBAs that exist on there, like Smite, for example, exists on there that people still play, but I'm sure the PC market is much bigger for those types of games, and I'd imagine it would be the same here with PUBG. That's a very good point.
Yeah. Yeah, so who knows? I mean, I think there will be people who do stick with it on the Xbox. Because there's still people who play Warframe and stuff like that on consoles. So there are people willing to stick with a game in the long term. Of course, you got Destiny as well. People, I know people who are still playing the first Destiny, up until the point of Destiny 2 coming out. So there are people who do stick long term with games, but I just don't feel like it's the same level as people do on the PC. And the console market is littered with so many choices that I don't think that the casual gamer is going to stick with this game too long. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Hey, so I have a quick question to ask, Gary. Yeah, you made some very good points. I wanted to ask this question. So let's say that because Microsoft is helping with the development of the game, what if they have character skins for Master Chief and Marcus Fenix that you could actually use in their version of the game? Now, do you think that would be enough for people to be like, oh yeah, I will stick with this game now? Or do you think that won't make a difference?
Yeah, I think this is the type of game where I think gimmicky stuff like that can work. So yeah, if you do offer a lot of quirky skins and maybe even weapons. I don't know. Like I haven't played the game, so I'm not entirely sure how everything works in the game. But if they do add a lot of stuff like that, I think that could. I mean, I don't know if it's something that will make the decision in somebody moving on from the game or not. But I think it's something that will get people interested in the game. When it's first coming out and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, great points. Great points all around.
That's a good idea. I think Microsoft should hire you.
Listen, I'll be surprised. Listen, I'll be surprised if they don't do that. I know that there'll be some people that will criticize. Well, yeah, Microsoft, they always rely on the same franchises, Gears and Halo. But honestly, that right there, it makes sense because of the game and the fact that it's the unpredictability of whatever the person is that you can make in that game, choose. But that's just an idea. I'll be curious if they decided not to do that, because it has to be somewhat different, I would think, in terms of their version anyway, especially if they're helping with the process to get it on Xbox One. But we'll see what they do. So any other thoughts on this topic before we move on to our main topic for today?
I'm good.
Well, look at that. They timed it perfectly. Yes. Okay, so this is the main topic. And the reason why this is a main topic is because as soon as this news happened, all I saw was people saying that, well, now Red Dead Redemption 2 is coming to the Switch. Grand Theft Auto 5 is coming to the Switch. Now, here's the thing. Obviously, we're talking about the fact that L.A. Noire has been announced. There's a remaster that is coming later this year, in November, actually. It's coming to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. No news yet on what the enhancements would be for the Xbox One X and PS4 Pro version, at least not yet. And it's also coming to the Switch. But they said that there's also going to be a VR. It's also something else coming to VR devices, I guess Oculus Rift, so on and so forth. But here's the question that we wanted to pose. Well, first and foremost, are you guys happy to hear that L.A. Noire Remaster is coming back to these other consoles, or are you a little bothered by this news?
You want me to go first? Or...
Yeah, you can go first.
Okay, yeah. I think it's great for people who didn't get to play L.A. Noire the first time, or even people who want to revisit the game. I think that's a great thing that they're remastering it and bringing it back. Me personally, it's not a game I want to revisit because I recognize all the great things that L.A. Noire did, and I appreciate Rockstar for creating it, but I did have some criticisms about the game and some criticisms that would hold me back from playing it again. But it was still a solid game, so it's great that they're remastering it for people.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's cool that it's being remastered and brought to these consoles. I don't think it'll make too much of an impact, though. I think it'll mostly be people who wanted to replay it, and those people who have a lot of cash to spend that will be picking it up that still haven't played it, because there's just a lot of games coming within the next honestly year. So it just seems like it's something that'll be there and it'll be kind of cool, but it's not going to make much noise at the end of the day. But it's definitely nice to have. In terms of games that should be remastered, I think this falls more into the category of yeah, it's cool that this got remastered and that it did do a lot of things, but I still feel like not enough people played it, myself included. But I just feel like it's just too late. I think we're past it. I think if a sequel were to come out, I think that would generate buzz. People would definitely jump on that. But I don't know how well a remaster will do in the long run. I think it'll be fine. I don't think it'll do super well or super bad.
Now, very good points made. Now, two other things I want to make really quick before I get to the other question is that, yeah, this game is going to cost $39.99, so it's not going to be a $60 game. Now, if you decide to get the Switch version, that is going to be a $10 difference because of the cartridge, so that's going to be $50. So that's another thing. But what I was going to say is, yeah, one thing that I've heard floating around, a couple of philosophies on this is that, 2K doesn't have any major game dropping this fall. So this was probably why they decided to do this remaster. Because, Red Dead Redemption got delayed until next year. So they want to have a holiday game. This is probably why they decided, well, let's do this remaster of L.A. Noire, and we can make some money off of that. And the Switch version, I think, that will be appealing to some people because this is a game I never thought would come to the Switch. So that's probably why they took this approach. I think ultimately it probably won't do incredibly well, but then again, you never know. It might still do good enough, at least for what they wanted in terms of them making money this fall. But we have to see on that. But the question that I was going to ask is, now that it is coming to the Switch, do we believe that more Rockstar games may now come to the Switch as a result of this? And I do have some thoughts to say, but before I get into my thoughts, I'm going to give the floor to you guys. So, Max, if you are ready, how about you share your thoughts on whether or not this could potentially happen?
I think that this is an interesting question because it would have to be very, I don't know if dumbed down is the right word. I just don't know if the Switch can do some of the Rockstar games. Well, you said GTA is coming to it, correct? Did you say that?
Oh, wait, hold on a second. Oh, no.
Oh, no, I thought I heard that for some reason at the beginning. I thought I heard that when you said that. Yeah, because I was going to say, holy shit, how? Because I feel like, yeah, GTA wouldn't go on to that. L.A. Noire is more of a contained experience, as is Bully 1, for example. I think Bully, and then maybe even Bully 2, if it's not a massive open world game, I think could work on there. Games like that could work, but I feel like, for example, Red Dead or GTA, it's just it's too much for the Switch to handle. Like, I know the Switch can do Zelda, but Zelda still isn't like packed with all of like the people and all of the activities to do that there is in like GTA and everything, even though it's a pretty big open world game. And even then, if you remember, when it launched, it still had a lot of performance issues, which I think has been mostly fixed, but I think there are still some here and there. And if even like a first party, Nintendo game couldn't run perfectly on there, I don't think a GTA game or something like that that is that much more packed would be able to do it either. It's interesting though. That's an interesting concept. I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm gonna give the floor to Gary, but let me just say this real quick to answer the question. They never said anything about Grand Theft Auto coming to Switch. I don't know if that's something that may be getting announced later. This could very well be a testing to see how this game performs on Switch, and then Rockstar may decide to actually do more stuff for Switch in the future. I don't know if I think this is going to be a one-off test to see how it does on Switch, and then they'll decide what they can actually put on the device. Because I also think something like Grand Theft Auto, I don't know if that's going to work on Switch. Maybe older games that Rockstar has can be put out on Switch, of course, but I don't know about Grand Theft Auto 5, and I definitely don't know about Red Dead Redemption 2. But Gary, what was you going to say on this particular topic?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's Rockstar testing the waters, and I think they're assessing whether they have an audience on the Switch platform. And, if they find out they do, I think there is a chance they might bring more games there. And, since they're remastering L.A. Noire, I wouldn't put it past them to remaster some of the older Rockstar classics as well. Bully would be a good one for the Nintendo audience, I think. But they also have, Max Payne 3. That's something they can remaster. And, a few other titles that they could bring there. I don't think we'll see a GTA on the Switch anytime soon. And, even if they do eventually bring out GTA for the Switch, it's probably, it probably wouldn't be, like, say they come out with GTA 6, right? I don't think Switch would be one of the consoles that they launch the game on. Like, I think it would be Xbox and PS4 at first, and then we all know they re-release it on the PC later on, and maybe then they would do the Switch, to tie in with the PC version or after the PC version. But I think it's a matter of numbers, and if Switch would have the numbers that they want to release that game on, because of course they're going to want to know that the audience is there, and we know that the Nintendo audience is different in general. It's not the same as it's not the same demographic as a PlayStation or an Xbox. So that's probably a huge concern to them, and that's why they're testing things out with L.A. Noire, I guess. So I will have to wait and see, but I do think there's a possibility of them publishing a lot more games on the Nintendo.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I will also give them credit for is that they didn't just do a straight up remaster. I know they announced briefly, they said a little bit of details that there is going to be Switch specific features on this version of the game. So I have to applaud them for at least taking that into consideration, But yeah, I definitely think it's like you say, Gary. I think they are testing it to see how it does, and then they'll make the determination as to what else they can do with that device. But ultimately, the question of whether or not this means L.A. Noire 2 is coming, I have no idea what Rockstar has planned for that series. I know that the team Bondi, I believe that's the name of the company they were working with before. That company is gone now, and I don't really know what they still own. Obviously, Rockstar still owns the IP, so they can do whatever they want to do with it. But I definitely feel like you'll definitely see a Bully 2 and Grand Theft Auto 6 way before you see a sequel to this game, in my opinion. Because right now, we know how long it takes for them to finish these games. Right now, all the focus is on Red Dead Redemption. 2. They're still doing GTA Online. So my thought is that, well, there's not going to be any rush to get back to L.A. Noire if they ever do revisit it again. But hey, I guess this will give some people that there is some hope that perhaps it could come to, there could be a sequel, but I have no idea what their plans are for the future of that series. We'll see. But any other thoughts on this particular topic before we get ready to wrap up the show?
I want a bully too.
Uh-oh.
That's all I have to say. I do think that would be able to run on a Switch though, totally. Unless it's like a massive open world like GTA, but I don't know if it would be. I feel like Bully worked better because it was a smaller open world.
What go ahead, Gary.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I would like them to remaster Bully because I missed out on that game entirely. I remember playing it briefly. I think it was like a friend's copy of the game or something, but I never actually bought the game. But I liked what it was doing. I liked the concepts that it had. So I would like a remaster of that and eventually a sequel.
Well, allow me to say that you aren't the only one that missed out. I did not even play that game, so I have to go back to play it. There's no way I can play it now because I don't have a PS3, don't have the Xbox 360 anymore. So I know that I guess there's a way to play it on PlayStation Now. As I've said multiple times, I don't have an interest in the service, so I definitely hope they remaster it also. Then I'll play it. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see.
It also it could really use a remaster because yeah, like Mark just said in the chat, the only decent running version is the PS2 version of Bully. And even I had issues with that. I played Bully on the PS2, the 360, and the PC. And each time I got further into the game, but each time I had like a game-breaking bug. So I was never able to finish it. I got to like pretty much the last act of the game, and I have watched the rest online, so I know how it ends, but like the game has awful performance issues on all platforms. So a remaster would honestly be great for that because maybe they could fix some of those issues.
Yeah, well, hey, that's possible. As for a sequel, I'm not really sure how they would tackle that. You know, a lot of changes have happened. The world we live in is a little bit different today, so I'll be very curious to see how they actually approach something like that. If they, because I believe they are going to revisit that franchise at some point. I don't know what their plans are. All I know is Red Dead Redemption 2. It will be out in 2018. I don't know if it's going to be out in spring because I know these guys. It's going to be out when it needs to be out. So I'm guessing maybe later in 2018. But outside of that, I have no idea. And of course, Grand Theft Auto 6. We know that's going to come too. But as for the other franchises, I guess we'll see in time what they decide to do with those other ones. But yeah, any other thoughts on this topic before we wrap up the show?
I think I'm good now.
Yeah, I'm good.
Awesome. So we definitely thank you all for checking out today's show. Very glad that we did not lose power once again. That's fantastic. So with that said, definitely look for more previews on the site this upcoming week. We do have a review of the long-awaited game for Switch, Mario Rabbids, that Mr. Anthony Nash did. That is going to be coming up on the site very soon. So you can look for that to see what we thought about that. And of course, like I said, I have more previews from PAX that are still coming. So stay tuned for that all throughout the week, as well as videos, you know. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But once again, wanted to give a shout out to everybody who is dealing with everything that has to do with the hurricane. Definitely stay safe. You know, throughout the next couple of days, hopefully, if your area is hit hard, they're able to recover everything they need to do in a timely manner, because I know some people have been without power, so on and so forth. So I hope that people don't have to go through too much of that for too much longer. But yes, we definitely want everybody to stay safe throughout this time and just take it easy. But final shout outs, Max, you have any final shout outs that you would like to give?
Yeah, like you were saying, I echo anyone who is at any risk of being in danger from any of these hurricanes. Please be safe. That stuff it's absolutely insane what's going on everywhere right now. World's in a pretty ridiculous state right now. But I hope that anyone that is at risk of that is safe. And then, as always, thanks everyone in the chat for participating and talking with us. You know, we had another good chats today. Everyone's always participating, giving us extra information and stuff like that, which is awesome. And I will see you guys next week.
Sounds awesome. And I will echo those same sentiments. Thanks for everybody in the chat, as well as the Patreon supporters. Thank you for your continued support. And Gary, the floor is now yours.
Yep. So, of course, shouts to all of the people who support us on Patreon. M. Collins, Sean Gertie, Stephen Ferron, Mauricio Aguilar, Himdil, Fergus Mills, Lelwyn Leslie, Nicholas Alvarez, Miguel, and Mark, who's in the chat now. So yeah, shouts to all you guys. We appreciate your support. And we did post up the next Ask TK episode, which is Tony Polanco. That's up on Patreon right now. So yeah, that's kind of like a timed exclusive for the Patreon people, but that will release on the site, you know, sometime next week. So yeah, everyone look out for that. I've heard it myself. It's a great episode. So yeah, it's definitely something to check out. And yeah, shouts to everyone who joined us in the chat today and everyone who were discussing the topics with us. You know, Illustrated DEO, Mark, Bernard, and you know everyone else who was in the chat. Reggie, shouts to all you guys who you know interacted with us and everything. And again, you know, I wish everybody well with these storms and the hurricanes that are happening in Florida. And I know it's coming to Atlanta tomorrow as well. So yeah, people, make sure you be careful and stay safe out there. And yeah, that's pretty much it from me.
Absolutely. And let me just give a quick shout out also to the Throwdown crew. I believe that now they are actually on Twitch, so make sure you guys subscribe to them, and make sure you check out Throwdown Your Questions later tonight. But that's it.
Indeed.
Once again. Yeah, see? Yep. And that's it. Once again, thank you all for the support. Everybody that is out there affected by the hurricane, stay safe. And we will talk to you all next week.